The NFL investigating Colts cornerback Isaiah Rodgers for violations of gambling policy. Story coming out of the NFL this offseason. So there have been a lot of players getting busted for gambling, different types of gambling recently, with how popular sports betting is now and how accessible it is with apps and in different states and whatever. We're seeing a lot more of this happen. Some Lions got busted about a month ago. Rodgers is busted now, and word on the street is there's about 12 more players that are going to be announced in the upcoming month or so. So I just kind of wanted to talk about this, what the NFL is doing, what the players are doing, what the rules should be, how this all is operating.
Skip, that ain't a mistake. When you place this, that's not a mistake. When you continuously do something over and over, that is a conscious act.
I'd say.
Dum-dum. You can't bet on NFL games if you are a current NFL player.
That is.
Now, this part is important because in the Rodgers case, I believe this is right. I could be wrong, but as you all know, I never am. I'm pretty sure Rodgers was betting on Colts games. So that is very obvious of why that should be illegal or why that should not be a thing. Some of the other players are getting busted for betting at team facilities, and they're betting on like NBA games or whatever, but they're betting at the facilities, which the NFL does not want to happen. That part is a little more tricky because I can understand how a player is thinking, I'll bet sports betting is legal. I'm not betting on the NFL. I'm betting on an NBA game. Why can I not do that? I can certainly understand a player getting confused there. Betting on your own teams, I don't get that. I don't get how a player could get that confused. I also believe in Rodgers' case, he wasn't betting that much. I want to say he was betting like $50 a game, $25 a game, $100 a game. There's a few like $1,000 bets or whatever, but mostly low limit bets, which is insane to risk throwing away your entire career for $100, $50, $200, even $1,000 to a guy making hundreds of thousands of dollars. It makes absolutely no sense at all.
It's been made harshly clear, like fear of God clear to every player.
Okay, if you're a golfer, Skip, golf is the one sport you can bet on yourself. Phil can go bet on himself. Brooks Koepka or DeChambeau, you know what? I'm going to put $100,000, I'm going to win the Masters.
Okay.
You can do that.
Because it wouldn't get you anywhere to throw the game.
Yeah, that's you.
Because it's your game.
Thank you.
Okay.
I think the UFC, I think you can bet MMA. I think you can do the same thing.
Skip, I get it. He's making what, $500,000, $600,000, $700,000. What the hell is he doing? Supplementing his income? You betting $25, $50. Skip, remember we had a conversation last week. I said, like, if you in law enforcement and you're really, really good, you work for the federal government or you work for one of these sports agencies. So what do you think these betting houses, the FanDuel, the DraftKings, and Bet MGM and Fox Bet? Hold on, I don't know NFL. I don't know if this guy's a current NFL player, but there's a guy like Isaiah Rodgers, I think his name is.
So how this works? So there's agencies called integrity companies, and they work with sports entities. They work with casinos. They work with sports books, whatever, to try and regulate what's happening. So, for example, if Aaron Rodgers walked up to the sports book at a casino, this would happen, whether it's the sports book or the integrity company or whatever, they would get in touch with gaming or get in touch with the NFL, and that's how this plays out. So there is a ton of regulation, and with apps, there's a ton of geofencing regulation. So, for example, I can bet on my apps in Louisiana, but if I go to Mississippi, the second I hit the line, the state line, the geo tracker, the geofencing tells me, and I cannot bet in Mississippi. So it's regulated down to the location, and that's how they know when these players are betting at the facilities. Obviously, it's not hard to geofence, geotrack each, NFL stadium, geotrack each NFL training facility, and all that stuff.
There's like 25, 40 bets popped up. What's he betting on?
Okay,
NFL
but it's
game.
through
an app on his phone.
But it's through an accomplice.
Hold on, I'm like, are you bored? You
gotta
can't
be.
bet, Skip. Who's it? Alex Karras and Paul Hornung. They got suspended for a whole year. You just saw, well, clearly, this happened before because you just saw a couple of guys, like 5 or 6 guys, get suspended for 6 games. Some guys.
Yeah, that was the Lions group. The Lions group got suspended for, I think, 6 games. Calvin Ridley got suspended for an entire season. An entire season. That happened last year. How are these guys forgetting that? Like, how are these guys not seeing that? And that's the part that is hard to understand. You know they're being told this in the offseason and training and in all these, orientations. And I understand that you can kind of zone out of those things and you can kind of like not pay attention. But other players are getting busted with this stuff. The whole Pete Rose situation. Calvin Ridley. I mean, it's everywhere. This is something that should be very obvious for players. Like, I can't bet on NFL games. That should be the easiest thing in the world. And to do it's so, I mean, I hate to say this, but it's so dumb that it's hard to even put yourself in their mind of like, how could they possibly have made this mistake? How could they possibly have done this? And it's not, if it's 50,000, 100,000, $1 million bets, okay, then you're trying to really do some things. You're really trying to gamble. But for $50, $25, $100, there's not even a financial incentive. It's just straight up reckless.
Guys got a year. Some guys have gotten released. Skip, I'm confused.
I'm
confused. What makes you think that Skip, I got access. I'm just sitting in my locker. I ain't got nothing to do. You know what?
Yep.
I'm going to take my home throw for 255.
Yeah.
I'm going to take the under. I like the Jags. Yep, go there. That's what I'm going to do right here while I'm in my locker.
Okay.
You like Skip talking about he like the Cowboys and they say they're going to win. I'm going to go ahead and put me $50 on the Cowboys.
No, that's a bad idea. Yeah.
Really, Skip? You are current NFL. Skip, there's a reason why it got harder and harder for people to really fix the games because there's so much. The players are making so much more money.
Yeah.
When the guy was making nickel and dimes, okay, you gonna pay him you gonna pay me more than what the salary.
Well, I think. Look, I don't think people are fixing games in the NFL. I don't think it's too hard. There's too many variables. There's too many eyeballs. It's too hard of a sport to fix. Basketball, okay, because you got one person holding the ball. They have full control over the game in that moment. Tennis, sure, it's one-on-one, one person, one judge, sure. UFC, boxing, no doubt. But it's really hard to fix the NFL. So I don't think that this has anything to do with fixing games at all. Let me throw that out there. It's obvious that the NFL implements this rule to eliminate any kind of perception that could even happen. That makes total sense why the NFL would do it. It's just one of those things where it's like, hey, we have to make this rule. We don't expect Isaiah Rodgers, a cornerback, to be able to throw the game, to be able to fix a game. We do not expect that to happen. So it's less about game fixing than more about just kind of the optics of betting on the sport you're playing or betting on the team you're playing on or whatever.
I'm making, okay, maybe I'll think about it.
Yeah.
But these guys making $20, $30, $40, $50 million, and this dude, $25, $50. So what you do with the money that the Colts pay you? Are you selling your money? He must be selling hundreds for 20s and 5s. Because this makes absolutely no sense to me, Skip. Make it make sense.
It doesn't make sense because then you could say like, oh, it's like if a millionaire stole a pack of gum from the store. But then you could say like, well, maybe he's got some kind of mental problem to where he's addicted to stealing. He has an addiction to that. But if he had a gambling addiction, you would think he would be betting for a lot more. I don't think you have a gambling addiction if you have the ability to bet tens and 20, hundreds of thousands of dollars and you choose to bet $50. There's no way, I'm not a doctor, but there's no way that that's an addiction. So to me, you can rule out that he has a gambling addiction because he's betting nothing.
I can't. Let's take a quick look at Isaiah Rodgers. And for his sake, because this is being so widely reported that he's just being investigated, for his sake, I hope he did do this, because he's going to be condemned one way or the other, because his name is now out there as being investigated.
Yeah, he said it. He said he
Yeah,
made
he
some
said
mistakes.
he did. He said he took full. He admitted 100% to this. He said, I made mistakes. That's on me. I take full responsibility. Whatever. So there is absolutely no doubt that he did it. Skip must not have followed the story. Skip looks like he hadn't slept in about 20 years in this video. Skip, drink a glass of water. But there is no doubt he did it. And it also sucks too, because like, the NFL wants to say like, what are you doing? This is a nothing burger. But the NFL has no choice but to suspend him. They have no choice but to suspend him for half a year, or maybe even a whole year. The fact that he's betting on his own team. This got Pete Rose basically exiled from the sport of baseball. And Rose never, I'm pretty sure Rose never bet against the Reds. He may have never even bet on the Reds games. I know for sure it wasn't against the Reds. But, I mean, this is nonsensical.
So why would you tweet it, Skip? If I ain't got no, what am I tweeting?
Okay, thank you. Look at his quick background here. Went to UMass. At UMass, he was first-team All-American by Pro Football Focus, and I think that's a pretty big. I know they're not recognized.
What does that matter?
It's not like the Associated Press All-American team, but he was chosen first-team All-American as a cornerback and a kick.
Who cares?
Okay.
He ran 4.27.
Who cares?
4.27. Okay, so he's got serious kick return speed, and as a rookie, he took one back 101 yards for the Colts. He has graduated up the ladder, and he was positioned to be their starting cornerback next year because Stephon Gilmore went to Dallas.
Yeah,
but who cares? What does that have to do with anything?
He's got 2 kids. He's 25 years of age. He's going into his final year of his rookie contract, which is 3 years, $3.4 million. So it's
that's good money.
Okay, it's good money. It's not like huge money, but
not
listen,
huge money.
The starting corner, and
it's $3 million. You're 25 years old.
There are people that have 2 kids, a wife, or a girlfriend, a significant other, and take care of 2 kids on less damn money than what this dumb make it.
Yeah, what the hell are you talking about, Skip? There's a lot of people who are making $40,000 a year, working their ass off, taking care of 2 kids, 4 kids, 5 kids, paying a mortgage, doing all this stuff. What does that have to do with anything, Skip? The fact that he went to UMass, the fact that he runs a 4.27 40. All that matters is he made $50 bets, $100 bets on his own team and completely violated the NFL's gambling policy.
That right. Okay, so the NFL has cracked down so hard on this that they school everybody in the organization, including all the employees.
Right.
Cannot. You players cannot. They school them differently than they school the other executive type employees up in the front office. Cannot.
When you were you remember you used to go into the locker room, Skip, and they had that big old sign. No gambling, no betting on NFL games. They're probably still up.
It's up.
He probably walk by it every day.
Every day.
He got to walk in the building. He got to walk out the building. He got to walk to practice. So he's seen that sign, and he said, "You know what? That ain't talking to me."
Okay, and to add,
even if you take the sign out, just logically, the players have to know, like, this seems like something I probably shouldn't do.
Add to your list of Paul Hornung and Alex Karras. This is going way back. Joe Namath. People do know Joe Namath now because of Aaron Rodgers in part, but I knew Joe Namath very well. He got suspended when he was a Jet because he was hanging out at a known mob hangout called Bachelor's.
Do not go to Fabletics.com.
Whoa.
Do not.
I'll tell you this. Kevin Hart and this Fabletics stuff, I wish I loved anything as much as Kevin Hart loves Fabletics.
New York. And it's just because of the association. For those who don't remember this, you can go all the way back to what's called the Black Sox scandal of 1919 in baseball, and they made a great movie. It's one of my favorite sports movies.
Yeah, but they were actually fixing the game.
I highly recommend it. It's about the Chicago.
Yeah, that's totally different. What is Skip talking about? He's talking about nothing.
But they didn't make much money, and all of a sudden, some gamblers got to them and said, "Hey, we could pay you X, Y, and Z if you would throw just one game of the World Series."
This is where match fixing happens. In places like low-level tennis, in places like low-level boxing, where the people are getting paid nothing, $5,000, $10,000. And then if they get wrapped up in a situation where it's like, hey, if you fix this match, you can make $50,000, $100,000. That's when they will do it. and then there's no one watching. It's low-level tennis, low-level boxing. There's no eyeballs on you. It's completely under the radar. Who cares? Women's golf, like collegiate women's golfers, like sports like that have zero eyeballs, zero cameras. It's one person making no money. That's where match fixing happens. Match fixing does not happen in the NFL. It just doesn't. I would not, no pun intended, but I would make a huge wager that there has not been an NFL game fixed or tampered with or compromised by a player in 40 years.
And they all got busted, including Shoeless Joe Jackson. It was never quite nailed down about how much he actually
knew about it, participated.
Yes.
Because you look at the numbers that he hit, well, if he was terrible, if considered his batting average, he had the second highest batting average in history.
And he could have been an all-time great and wound up playing nowhere, these minor, these semi-pro leagues.
Well, I know you covered this guy, Art Fleester. Remember, he had a for real
addiction.
He had a for real gambling problem because they kick him out, he come back, get kicked out again.
Do it again.
If I'm not mistaken, he might be in the big house again for the same thing.
He was a first-round draft pick as a quarterback out of
Ohio State. Yes.
Okay. Look, we're talking about the very integrity and credibility of the game you play.
That's all you got if you're a sports franchise.
That's all you got, because the ultimate nightmare would be if some kid in that locker room, one of those players, got in trouble with gamblers, got into gambling debt, and a gambler said, "Hey, have I got a deal for you?
Yeah.
If you will," especially, it would help if it's a quarterback or.
Right.
See, like, these conversations are like, I mean, I know I keep harping on this, but they're getting into this being an issue with something that it's not. It has nothing to do with fixing the games. Nothing to do with that. Rodgers wasn't doing that. And really think about that. I have this conversation all the time when people are like, "Do you think that games can be fixed?" Let's pretend that the Colts are playing the Jaguars. Divisional game. Let's say the line is Colts -3. Okay? Think about what it would take to fix the game. You would have to, number one, get the score to where it would matter. So the score would have to be within that threshold of the spread. So both teams would have to be in on it. And both teams would have to perfectly do the math, lining up with the flow of the game, right? Because you got to line it up with the possessions, you got to line it up with the downs, you got to line it up with the touchdowns, the numbers, the points, all that stuff. Then you got to execute. So what if a field goal kicker misses the kick? They're not automatic. So then how you have to refix it. Then you have to get the play perfect to the score. And then you have to have it in the hands of the person who's going to fix it. But then all the other players have to also be in on it because they can't tackle you. They can't, drop a pass. They can't catch a pass, whatever it is. Then the referees have to be in on it because what if there's a penalty? What if there's all that stuff? The coaches have to be in on it. And then all of it has to happen. So you got, at this point, you're somewhere between 100 people in on it. Then it has to be done so perfectly that the 10 million people watching don't see anything that's out of the ordinary. Because you can't run at not full speed. People are going to be like, why the hell didn't they tackle him? Why the hell did they let him run by him? Why did he drop that wide open pass? All that stuff has to be in play. It's way too much to fix a game. There's way too many moving pieces in the NFL to fix a game. Way too many.
Somebody who touches the football.
Yes, a wide receiver, a running back.
Good. You need to fumble it. You need to drop the pass. You need to do this to make sure that the spread stays under X.
Mm-hmm.
But see what I'm saying? That's way too simple. You need to fumble it. No. The score also has to be where you want it to be. So the game has to be fixed all the way up to the quote-unquote fumble. So it's not one play. It's not one person, one play, one down, one thing. Everything has to be fixed up until that moment. What's the odds? Let's say it's one person has to fumble the ball. What's the odds that it perfectly lines up to that moment with the spread on the line and the ball gets to you in a position to where you can impact the game on one play in that specific game where you've got to fix it? Because if you don't fix it, If it doesn't happen, then you're out of the money and all hell breaks loose. So it's it's like a mythological thing where people say the game can be fixed or they say that kind of stuff's happening, but it in the NFL it cannot.
Can you do that? Yeah, I can do that for you. A running back I'll fumble 3 times. I'll just lose the handle and I'll take the hit, and with the media, it'll be okay. We'll stay under whatever the spread is. Okay.
But what if you fumble? Your team picks it up, you regain possession, and the coach takes you out and says, you fumbled twice, I'm taking you out of the damn game. And what if the backup running back has the game of his life? Then you haven't fixed nothing. Way too many moving pieces. I hate conversations like this because I think it's lazy. I think it's super lazy to be like, to say this kind of stuff. To say like the quarterback will just throw an interception. What if he throws an interception and the cornerback drops it? Then what? He goes to throw another one? What if he drops it again? What if he throws an interception, the defensive player catches it, and then the next play, that team throws a pick 6? Then the quarterback hasn't fixed anything. It's just so lazy and so easy to say, yeah, a game can be fixed by one player doing one thing.
The NFL keeps saying that, here's the quote from one of their spokespeople, we have seen no evidence of game manipulation to date. So that's their greatest fear. And with all of these busts where they've bust, there's now 6 players just this season, going into this season, right?
Skip, every time like an official misses a call or something doesn't go their way, the first thing they say, Jerry Jones played the official. The officials on the...
This is what I think. I think the biggest fear, the most realistic fear, is that players on teams that they know they're bad or whatever will bet against their teams, and then the public perception of the quarterback for the Texans is betting against his own team. And so then the fans are like, get this guy out of here. The teammates are like, this guy's a turncoat or a traitor. That's the realistic fear, is that a player on a bad team who's not happy with the coaching staff or not happy with whatever is openly betting against his own team. That is the fear. That's like the real fear that can happen, and that public perception would be real bad. That is the legitimate thing that can happen, not whatever the hell they're talking about.
Yep.
Skip, when people at home watching, they gotta believe what they're seeing is on the up and up. Because if they don't, you got pro wrestling. It's really that simple, Skip.
It's not. They gotta believe the players care. And if the players are betting against the team, then they believe that they don't care, and they believe they're not putting forth the effort on the field. Thus, they believe the product they're watching is not real. Like, it's not players playing their hardest or whatever. Sports only works if the fans believe the players are taking it seriously and playing as hard as they can. That's the fear. The fear is that the picture I've painted, the whole like Jerry Jones is on the take and this is fixed, and that's not the case.
I wish I could give it to you any other way, but when the people at home, they've got to believe is that guy talent trump that guy talent. That's why the play went that way, or it didn't go that way.
Okay.
Any other way.
Thank you. Isaiah Rodgers allegedly bet mostly $50 or $100 on games.
Yeah.
But he did bet, the report says, on his own team, the Colts.
He should get thrown out for like 5 years.
Okay.
For being dumb.
Okay, for being dumb. The problem with betting on, there was one wager, but they're not specifying what it was on. But there was one bigger wager.
Yeah, it was like a four figure. Yeah,
so
four-figure wager.
$4,000 was bet on one game, but it's not specifying whether that was on the Colts. Also not specified, were you betting for or against the Colts? Because it's possible, if you know of an injury because you're on the team and you know that the quarterback's banged up or whoever it might be, and you decide, oh, because I got inside knowledge of this, I'm going to bet against us to cover.
Well,
that's not a big deal either.
He's a damn fool if he ever bet with him. He should have bet with him. If he bet, he should have bet against him, and he'd have won.
Okay.
Skip, this is not something like some obscure rule like, man, I ain't know. Skip, I ain't know you could. Man, I ain't know we couldn't bet on the NFL game.
You knew.
Really, dude?
Yeah, of all the things you know,
That's
what
number.
you know.
That's number one.
Yes.
I think what will eventually happen here is I think the NFL has to come down really hard, drop the hammer, suspend them probably for a season. I mean, you just can't bet on your own team, and they'll make an example out of them. I think they have to. I mean, especially with how Goodell handles things, I would be shocked if he got less than a full season suspension. But let me know in the comments below what you think, guys. I mean, are we being too harsh on Isaiah Rodgers? Should we let the players bet? What do you think the rules should be? How should sports handle this moving forward with how popular sports betting has become? Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next video.